Oh wow, another Hendrick Motorsports video. How original. Okay, all jokes aside, I kind of feel like this one's a little fitting, seeing how we saw basically pure domination last night. Whether or not that win is on this list or not, you decide. But honestly, I think that this is a long overdue video or list for anyone to do. Hendrick Motorsports has so many wins to their name, I'm going to be honest, it's really hard to make a video out of this with only 10 wins. These are all going to be cup wins. These are all going to be ones that have significance either to Hendrick Motorsports as a whole or to Hendrick Motorsports' best drivers. And basically also these will be ones that have huge historical significance to NASCAR. So if there isn't one on here, I completely understand, and I think it's justified for people to be like, hey, where the hell is this one? I get that. So right now, even before we go into it, leave your top 10 in the description below. Let's see how ours all match up. So number 10, the 1994 Brickyard 400 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This one has to be on here. This one was won by Jeff Gordon. It was only his second full-time season, and at this point, he still wasn't fully proven yet. This was the first race also at Indianapolis, and it was a big deal. It was arguably the most hyped up race in NASCAR history. You can make an argument for it. 43 cars could make the race at the time. There were 87 entries. Yes, think about that for a second. 87 entries. You could fill 2 full fields and still have an extra car left over. Granted, that car dropped out later, but still. In the closing laps, Gordon ended up winning by beating out Ernie Irvan and
history books, years from today when 79 stock car races have been run here, will remember the name Jeff Gordon, winner of the inaugural Brickyard 400.
Now, moving on to number 9 is the 1984 Sovereign Bank 500. This was Hendrick Motorsports' first win, and it was at the Martinsville Speedway. Trust me, the Martinsville Speedway is one of the most significant tracks in the history of Hendrick Motorsports, and this is where it starts. Jeff Bodine won the race, and really what he did was set the pace for the organization's path into the future of NASCAR. At this time, Hendrick Motorsports still wasn't a proven team. They also were teetering on the edge of closing, and this win basically helped them continue and focus on what the future would hold. It kept the team going, and that's what's huge and significant. Not that it's the first win, but it's what kept the team going, and it's what they built to get to where they're at today. Now, number 8 is going to stay in the 80s. It's the 1987 Miller High Life 500 at the Pocono Raceway. This one was won by Tim Richmond, who was returning after what was reported to be double pneumonia that kept him out. It was the first of 2 wins in his final shortened season, and basically it's the amalgamation of his fight back while he was fighting against AIDS. Unfortunately, like I said, Richmond couldn't perform through the whole season, but winning 2 races while being as sick as he was damn impressive. Unfortunately, Richmond would end up passing away 2 years after this in August of 1989. Now, moving to number 7, a bit more of a happy and less solemn win was the 2015 Goody's Headache Relief Shot 500 at the Martinsville Speedway, won by Jeff Gordon. This kept the drive for 5 alive. Gordon, for the longest time, had been trying to get that 5th championship, and while ultimately he never got it, there was real hype after this race to say, hey, he has a real shot of winning this championship this year. It ended up being Gordon's final victory, which is fitting as it was at his best track through his career. 2015 hadn't been the greatest season for Gordon. He'd run well, finishing in the top 10 a lot, but top 5s were minimalistic, and basically wins were non-existent until this point. But everything basically fell into place perfectly on this chilly, late afternoon November day. The celebration also was great. You don't see many celebrations with someone getting out of the car and immediately jumping onto their pit crew, so the emotion of it in the moment was palpable. It was really one of the most enjoyable and heartwarming wins in NASCAR history. Now, another win that was really big, not just for a driver, but for an organization, was the number 6 pick on my list. The 2012 Showtime Southern 500, won by Jimmie Johnson at the Darlington Raceway. Just right off the bat, it's at Darlington. That right there is huge. Darlington is such a historically significant track in NASCAR that winning there is always a big deal. But the thing is, this served as 2 great momentum boosters for Hendrick Motorsports. Basically, it broke a winless streak that started in October of 2011 and ended in May of 2012. For an organization like Hendrick Motorsports, that is alien at this point, especially since this was removed only a year after Johnson's 5 consecutive championships and only 2 to 3 years after the time that Hendrick Motorsports went 1-2-3 in points in 2009. But the big one, of course, is that this was Hendrick Motorsports' 200th victory. And it was a big storyline in 2012. It was always who was going to get it. Was it going to be Casey Kane, the new guy? Was it going to be Dale Jr. breaking his winless streak? Was it going to be the old guard in Jeff Gordon, or the dominant man of the decade in Jimmie Johnson? Ultimately, it ended up being Johnson, and the celebration was great. Entering the top 5, we enter into the 2020s. With the 2021 Dryden 400 at Dover. This one was won by Alex Bowman, and this kind of seems like a win that might be too recent to put on this list, but I don't think so. It was a 1-2-3-4 finish, the first that Hendrick had ever done, and the first one since 2005, only the second in this millennium. The team combined to lead 382 of 400 laps, and while Bowman won, Kyle Larson swept the stages and dominated. But Byron, Elliott, and Bowman were the only ones that could stay around him all day, and the domination was absolute. Alex Bowman's win also seems to have helped him solidify a place at Hendrick in the long term, so this win may have ripple effects in NASCAR for years to come. Now, number 4, we go back to another solemn win. The 2004 Bass Pro Shops MBNA 500 at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, won by Jimmie Johnson. This was right after Hendrick Motorsports' darkest hour, when members of their team were killed in a plane crash on the way to Martinsville Speedway the week before. Through all of the emotions, Hendrick kept pushing. And while it didn't go well for all of the Hendrick teams, Jimmie Johnson was the man who just pushed that little bit further. It was an impressive one too, as Jimmie Johnson was only in his 3rd full-time season in the Cup Series. He had never won a championship to this point, and he didn't have the dominant car of the day. Yes, he ran in the top 5 all day, but the dominant car was Mark Martin. But at the end, he managed to duel the Grizzly veteran and win. The win also helped keep Johnson in the 2004 title hunt, something that had seemed lost only a few weeks prior. The win also, in my opinion, helped make the Jimmie Johnson we see today. It's very rare and is very unfortunate when these kind of moments happen, but when they do, they're always impressive to watch. Now, entering the podium at number 3, we have the 2021 Coca-Cola 600 at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, won by Kyle Larson. This is Hendrick's 269th win in the Cup Series, and it broke the record held by Petty Enterprises for most wins by an organization, a record that, as Mike Joy had said, has been standing for over 50 years. This is significant. This is something that we may never see again in our lifetime, for all we know. Also, Hendrick was so dominant that night that if Kyle Busch hadn't gotten in the way, they would have another 1-2-3-4 finish, not in organization history, but in 2021, in the span of a month. That shows how good this team has gotten. The team overall led 373 of the 400 laps, or 559.5 miles of the 600 miles. While this doesn't hold a candle to Martin Truex Jr.'s domination a few years ago, this still is huge, and Larson did lead 327 laps. The only one that really seemed to be able to fight Larson was Chase Elliott and maybe William Byron. The rest of the field had nothing for him. At runner-up, we have the 2020 season finale 500 at Phoenix, won by Chase Elliott. This was a win that solidified Elliott's first championship victory ever in his career in the Cup Series. He won his first title and the race. And this also is the 13th NASCAR Cup Series championship for Hendrick Motorsports. It was Jimmie Johnson's last race, which he did run well, which was in the top 5 and 5th, and it really showed a passing of the torch. Elliott proved that he's just not some guy who's here because of his name. He dueled the Penske teammates of Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski, as well as Denny Hamlin, who had been dominant all year in a JGR car. He beat 3 of the best drivers the Cup Series has to offer, and he did it pretty handily. He came from the rear of the field too as he was sent back there, and he still won and still led the most laps. Say what you want about this format, Chase Elliott's win in this race was dominant, was impressive, and does solidify him as an elite driver for the next probably decade or decade and a half. So what race could beat Chase Elliott winning his first championship and winning a race? What win could possibly do that? Well, you just got to look 4 years prior. At the 2016 Ford EcoBoost 400 at the Homestead Miami Speedway, won by Jimmie Johnson. To me, this number 1 pick is a no-duh selection. Jimmie Johnson is one of the best drivers ever. You can make the argument that he is the best driver in NASCAR history. How do you beat winning the race to win your 7th championship? There's been a lot of great wins in Hendrick Motorsports history, but I have to say, I think this one takes the prize pretty easily. It was also Johnson's 80th Cup victory, which makes him only the 7th driver in the sport's history in the Cup Series to do that. And what makes it even more exciting is that Johnson wasn't the dominant guy of the day. He wasn't out there leading every lap the way Elliott was. He had to have things fall his way. He had to avoid wrecks. Again, say what you want about the playoff format. What Johnson did again is impressive as hell, and I don't think it should be taken away from in any way. And that's it for me, the top 10 Hendrick Motorsports victories. Trust me, I know there's a lot of them that I could have put on here. Hendrick's 100th win, maybe Junior's Pocono sweep, Terry Labonte winning after being wrecked at Bristol. There's so many memorable Hendrick Motorsports wins, it's hard not to put more on here. But that's what I want you to do. Leave for me in the comments below your top 10 Hendrick Motorsports victories. Which ones are your favorites? Let me know. What ones did I miss? Because I probably did. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, subscribe to my channel for more great NASCAR content like this. If you even like it enough, you can even join on channel memberships. Until next time, have a good one.